Hey, you want to spin this thing up?
Yeah.
Let me know when we're good. All right. Welcome to the July 24th meeting of the Maine Commission on Governmental Ethics and Election Practices. Our first agenda item is ratification of the minutes of the May 29, 2024 meetings. I'll move that we ratify them.
Second.
And I would like to move that we amend them. There's a small amendment that I'd like to make. On page 2, the very bottom line. Since there were no changes, did not, and I would insert believe any action was needed.
No.
So I move that we make that amendment. Is there a second?
Oh, second that.
Thank you. So let's vote on the amendment. And since we're all here, we can do a voice vote. All in favor of amending the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Okay. Now the main motion, all in favor of ratifying the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say no. Okay, the minutes are ratified. Moving on to agenda item 2, this is a failure to file campaign finance report, building the Maine House PAC. And I think we have Representative Campbell and Mr. Cardy here. If you want to come to the witness stand, that would be great. Yes,
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion due to, I think, Mr. Campbell and I just knowing each other so well that I'm not going to be as objective as I think I should be
okay, and
I'll
that's
see you
completely up to you.
after this item.
Sure, you're welcome to stay here. You just
That's okay. Okay, stretch my legs.
okay. All right, so you guys know what we usually do. I'll have Jonathan kind of give us a background.
Absolutely.
On this item, I'm gonna have Mr. Bolton tell us what our options are, because I think there's been some discussion about what our options are. And then we'll do something. So, Mr. Wayne?
Sure. Representative Campbell is the principal officer of building the Maine House PAC. It's a leadership PAC and it hasn't been active for years. And for some time, Representative Campbell was calling our office and asking us to file the reports for him. And we had a couple of former employees who would do that because there was no activity in the reports. He authorized it. That was something of an exception to our normal policy. Because our view is that it's really the PAC's responsibility to file reports. So due to staff turnover and other things, we decided a couple of years ago that we were not going to provide that kind of accommodation anymore. And we've been encouraging Representative Campbell to file the report himself. So last October, the PAC was 72 days late in filing a report, and our former employee Emma Burke made communications to the PAC, like, please file the report, it's late, so forth, and it didn't happen. And at that time I was asked, should we view this as a potential enforcement action? And I said, no, I don't want to take a punitive approach. I should just encourage Representative Campbell to sort of fix the situation. That kind of, I encouraged that, but there weren't any changes made. And then when the PAC was late in filing the report due in April, and then the report due on May 31st, I was asked again, do you think we should view this as an enforcement action? And that's when I said, okay, I'll support that. So we started out by posing penalties for a failure to file the report. And just as we were completing the materials for this meeting, the PAC did file the report late. So we didn't have time as we in the final day of proposing finalizing the materials to confer with John Bolton, our attorney, about what penalty options were available. So that's where we left it in the staff memo. And since then, we've had some conversations, and at the appropriate time, you can turn to Mr. Bolton about options.
I certainly will.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners for Mr. Wayne?
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Campbell, Josh,
I'll just speak on behalf of the PAC and Representative Campbell, if I may. Good morning, everybody. Joshua Tardy, counsel for the PAC and for Representative Campbell. Message delivered. The staff memo, very clear on what the PAC's obligations are. Can assure this commission that nothing has ever been intentional. There's no desire to tread on the threshold of a criminal investigation. Would accept a penalty if there was jurisdiction to impose such. But more importantly, I have a plan in place with Representative Campbell to bring the PAC into strict compliance. We're going to substitute treasurers, and that will be done nearly immediately, but certainly this week. And we'll also the PAC candidly will decide whether it's going to be an ongoing political action committee or it's going to sort of suspend its activities formally and close out. So I appreciate that past staff have assisted the very convincing Representative Campbell to file reports, and we know that that time is now past.
Thank you very much. Any questions from commissioners for Mr. Tardy?
I have one, just wanted to confirm, were any of these late reports, was there financial activity involved in them?
No contributions, no expenditures.
How long has it been inactive like this?
3 years.
Why is it still going?
It's just there's money in it, and he just hasn't participated in independent expenditures or actual overt campaign activities. But I'm certainly familiar with some of the House Republican vests and golf shirts that have been purchased by that over the prior to that.
What's the balance if they hold right?
Approximately 7,000.
Yep.
Approximately 7.
Did you indicate that was the intention to close this out?
Well, we're gonna make a strong consideration of that, but for sure, we're gonna have a professional or somebody that's part of the world of campaign staff that will be substituted as treasurer this week.
So it may continue as a path.
It may. It may.
Any other questions?
What's whose doorstep does this fall on? With consequence to file? Who's responsible? You're saying you're thinking of changing some staff, or what's the underlying reason?
A treasurer who's more than a treasurer in name only, that will assist Representative Campbell in making sure that PAC reports are timely filed. I mean, I was the principal officer when I was leader of several PACs, and I had people that did that for me, and I think with one exception, I got things filed on time. But,
Can you explain with all the contact that was made by commission staff to promote compliance? Was that just not seen? Were emails not received?
No,
Were
I
letters
just
not received?
I just think that the seriousness wasn't recognized, and that is something that Representative Campbell owns.
By who? Who did?
Representative Campbell.
So where were the letters? Were they addressed directly to him?
There were letters to the treasurer, and I believe there were actual phone calls made to Representative Campbell from staff.
Based on this login schedule we've been supplied with, this Representative Campbell has really been the sole person ever to deal with the commission. Other than the sort of brief period where the commission staff was doing the work for him. But this shows just, dozens and dozens of logins. So Representative Campbell, you were well aware of the process It would seem to me.
Yeah, you agree?
Yes. Any other questions from commissioners?
No, thank you.
Mr. Bolton, can you brief us on what, should we just find that the report was filed late, can you brief us on what our options are?
So the statute has a little bit of a quirk in it, which is that there are two sets of penalties. There's a penalty for filing late, which is calculated mechanically. And the sort of problem with imposing a penalty under that is that one of your multiples is a zero because there's no financial activity. So you're going to wind up with an amount of zero. And the other penalty statute is for not filing a report at all, and which is not the case here. Because the report was ultimately filed. So that's, I don't believe that under the way the statute is currently worded, and perhaps the commission should think about proposing to the legislature a change in this so that there could be some kind of minimum automatic penalty in a case where a report is very late, no financial activity, but is filed. But short of that, I don't think there's the ability to impose a penalty under subsection 8A. The final option is that it is a Class E crime not to file a report required by the subchapter within 30 days of filing. So the third or a second option, you could find a violation, you could not find a violation, or you could find a violation and refer it to my office for prosecution, which of course does not mean that it would be prosecuted. It would be then a question for our office as to whether to exercise our discretion to move forward with that.
So there's no situation under which we could assess a penalty.
As I read the statute, I don't believe you can assess a penalty in this circumstance. But you can find a violation.
Okay. Discussion amongst commissioners? Well, actually, before we do that, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just be respectfully for the option of referring to the AG for a criminal investigation. I would just say, be careful the precedent that you can set on that and look at it in the big picture. And think about that PAC report that's 31 days filed, that's got millions of dollars worth of activities, and whether there will be an impetus upon the commission to refer that for prosecution.
Well, Representative Campbell, I would hope that this is definitely a wake-up call about the obligation to file. I mean, this should be something that you were well aware of, having gone through so many years of this. But the fact that there was no activity with the PAC itself does tell me that, to me, there was little public harm caused by it, and I'd be reluctant to refer this to the Attorney General. I would have been happier had we been able to assess at least some penalty as a commission for this, but I don't know what else we can do but to find that a violation occurred. That's my thought. I would be much more alarmed had there been activity that was unreported.
And if there'd been activity, there would have been a fine available.
That's correct.
I agree with you. I think, it's a clear violation in my mind, and it's kind of a pattern that has to change. But I am also reluctant to elevate it to the level of a criminal offense.
Well, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate. I mean, it's referral to the AG for their review and.
Yep.
In terms of whether they would actually.
Yep. Yep.
That being said. I have to agree. Mr. Hasty.
Okay, I'll move that we find that the report was filed late, over 30 days late. And Well, that's enough for that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. And I will, I don't think we need another motion. Okay. So, thank you, please don't do that again. We'll take care of it. Moving on to agenda item 3, it's a request for an investigation of a postcard that was sent out in St. George, Maine in May 2024. Do we have someone coming on?
We do.
Morning.
You're welcome back. Thank you.
Hopefully this time I get to
Are you
stay.
Representative Matlock?
Yes, I am. Matt Lack.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I have unmuted.
It doesn't look like you're muted or anything.
Correct. Hold on. I'm sorry. Can you hear me at all?
Still can't hear you. We'll see if we can get it squared away.
Okay, thank you.
Our speakers and microphones should be all right. It's on her end.
It's on my end. My end.
It could be, you're not muted. I don't know if there's a way to turn your microphone on or not, but
Hold on, let me see.
Possible the TV is muted, or is the sound coming out?
Is that better?
The
Can you hear me?
sound actually should come out of our owl.
would it be okay if we had the representative call in? Would that be possible?
I can do that.
Yeah. Take a break. I'll call her and I'll do it on my cell phone.
Sounds like a deal. Let's take about a 5-minute break and we'll contact you, representative, and we can do this by phone.
Thank you. Abby.
My father always used to say, to err is human, but to really follow up, you need a computer.
Did you say foul?
No, he didn't. As a matter of fact.
Hello? Hello? Huh. Hi, Martha. This is Representative Matlack. Apparently my landline's not working either.
Okay, so good, because I was trying to call that on my cell phone here and I couldn't get through and I was wondering what in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to Richmond
Okay.
and I've got her on this my cell phone. So hold on just a second. I'm going to put you on speakerphone and I'm going to put that next to our little owl thing. So it sounds like maybe you could be on the screen and you'll be talking through my cell phone, but everybody will be able to hear you.
Perfect.
Hold on. All right.
That's okay?
He's telling me, don't even try to.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, let me stop the share. Can you,
I turned the audio off on my computer.
Great, that should work.
We can hear you through the phone. Can you put the phone over here, Martha,
over,
right in front of us?
I wonder if you should call us back because it's getting a lot of feedback.
What's that?
I wonder if she should call me again because we're getting so much feedback right now.
Oh, okay. Representative, can you call Martha
She's
again?
watching on her computer, which what we're hearing the feedback, I think is off her live feed.
Oh, like a radio call.
So
Is she now-
She can turn off her sound.
Yeah, and then she can hear us through the phone.
Yeah. Representative, can you
Yeah.
turn off the sound on your computer? And then we'll hear you better on the phone without feedback.
All right, why don't you give it another try?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we still have some feedback, but is your live feed off and everything off on your computer for volume?
Yes, it is. How about if I turn off my computer back to?
What about headphones? Does she have headphones? I don't know.
No, it may be a problem with my cell phone or her cell phone.
Oh, she's on a cell phone.
Let's do it just with the phone.
Yeah, should we discontinue
Yeah.
her Zoom presentation? No video.
I don't think that's gonna make any difference with the snow.
It
Representative,
may. Because then we'll just be talking with her over the phone.
all right, if you wanna try disconnecting from the video and then we'll just have you on my cell phone. I don't know if that's gonna make any difference. Can you say something now?
Okay, yes, I've logged off and I'm just on my mobile number.
That sounds great. Put it right here.
Put it in that file.
Look at
But if you take it out.
that. Representative, thank you for attending. I'm sorry about the technological problems.
Oh, that's not a problem. I'm used to things like this happening in general, but perhaps the hour and 15-minute drive would have been worth it.
Just to see our faces in person.
Especially.
Okay, so what we usually do during a hearing here is, I'll have Mr. Wayne, the director of the commission, kind of give us some background on what's going on. Then we'll hear from you, and then we'll discuss it and decide what to do.
Thank you.
And tell me if you can't hear Mr. Wayne. Mr. Wayne, go ahead.
Sure. This is a complaint by Representative Matlack about a referendum in the town of St. George that was scheduled for May 13th. And some residents in the town received an anonymous postcard mailing 3 days before on May 10th, urging people to vote against the referendum. And the postcard didn't say who paid for the postcard mailing, but it did expressly advocate against the referendum. And so she's requesting an investigation into whether it should have contained that disclosure statement and whether there was any other information that should be on file with the commission about this. The staff, agree that disclosure statements are important in these kinds of political mailings. It's helpful for the public in terms of informing them who's speaking to them and how much weight to give the messages that they're receiving through the mail. And on some cases, we've had some success in tracking down who is responsible for an anonymous mailing or signs, but that's typically when the person bringing the complaint has given us some kind of productive tip or a lead as to who is responsible. So we're not opposed to doing an investigation. On behalf of the staff, I wanted to express that. We don't see a readily available path to identify who is responsible. That's one caution we have. And then in particular, we have some doubts about contacting people who put up internet postings that they were opposed to the referendum, including the two in the mail, in her complaint, we received this card. I just don't know as a state agency whether we should be contacting people merely because they spoke out on a local issue, unless there's some reason to believe they're connected to the mailing. So those are our cautions. And we're happy to do whatever the commission would like to do with them.
Does anybody have questions for Mr. Wayne? Yes,
Yeah, and I may have only been half listening, I apologize, but I was trying to remember one thing. Do I remember accurately, these were mailed from South Portland?
Well, I don't know if we know where they're mailed from, but my inference is they went through the South Portland US mail facility, and that's why they're stamped. They are stamped South Portland, but I wonder if that's because they just went through that facility. I don't know if that they were necessarily.
So they could have been put in a box in Tennis Harbor or whatever, and then they go to the facility in South Portland like they would in Hamden.
Based on my limited knowledge, I think that is possible, but I'm not an expert.
I just bring it up because I was wondering vaguely if the post office in any way could be helpful.
They typically don't want to be helpful. I mean, they have their policies for good reason, and that's just anecdotal. We've tried a couple of times to see if they would share information with us, and it didn't work out.
Thank you.
yes, Commissioner.
I think we have to be mindful of Mr. Wayne's comment about not directing an investigation against people solely because they were in favor or opposed to this referendum. And without any guidance, without any clues as to who the person was behind this, I kind of agree with Mr. Wayne that this commission shouldn't be out on basically on a, I don't know, fishing expedition almost, trying to determine who was behind it. If in fact we had more direct evidence, this has come up in the past and somehow the name has surfaced. Or the likely person has surfaced, and that's where we ended up with that. But I don't know if, the only thing I can think to do is to continue this for a month or so and see if somehow more direct evidence as to the person behind this, persons or persons, comes to light.
That was
It does seem, as they have indicated in the memo, that could very likely have cost over $500. Although we don't even have any real evidence of that. That's.
I think we have enough to say that it's likely, given the number of voters in the town, that more than $500 was spent. We also know it was done. We don't know who did it. I'm disinclined to just say, well, we can't do anything, let's move on, because what we've then done is given a roadmap to anybody else who wants to do this and said that, or saying, would be saying that, well, if you do this in a clever manner, you can get away with it, and just do it 3 days before the election, use stamps, mail it from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're done. I'm just gonna throw out the idea of finding that this does warrant an investigation. I mean, could we, do we need an actual identity to say this warrants an investigation, and after investigation, we can say it's likely that the law was violated, and we're gonna, find a violation on a John Doe or a Jane Doe or whatever. I mean, is that possible?
Well, I think there are two questions in there. I don't think I think you do have enough to authorize an investigation without knowing who is responsible. So the answer to that is yes. As to whether in a future time you would want to say there was a violation or a violation was likely, that would be up to you at that time based on the information you have. I do think one stumbling block would be, it would be, even though it seems likely that there was $500 spent, if you're gonna call something a violation, or it's nicer to know just how much was spent, you know,
Well,
like,
it's necessary.
yeah.
And then to my mind, it's
Yeah.
necessary.
So that one, I'm a little, not sure if you want to go there, but on the first part, yes.
Could I ask Representative Matlock?
Yes, let's actually hear from her.
Okay.
Representative Matlock, do you want to address us?
Yes, please. The reason I put this in was because this is a fairly new piece of legislation. Actually, it's my piece of legislation. It's been in effect for about a year, and I have heard of, this would be the third instance in the not too distant past, probably the last 6 months in my area alone, where incidents like this have occurred, where anonymous lobbying was done to influence a local vote. It happened in Rockport, it happened in Booth Bay, it happened in St. George. If nothing else, I think this needs to be more widely known. I think in my area, it will be more widely known because I did file this complaint. It outraged many people in my community because of all the distortions, the implications, the outright insinuations that things were not as clear cut as possible, and inferring that this was the ballot question was an inside job and people were profiting from it. I want to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Things like this obviously happen in small communities all the time. But I do agree with the commissioner who mentioned that if we just if you just shrug your shoulders and say, oops, we can't figure this one out, we're just going to pass along. I think it will encourage, perhaps even in St. George, next time something comes up that a few hardy individuals want to oppose, but not publicly. And to send out a mailer with a bunch of forever stamps on it, with no indication of who they are. It happens on Facebook fairly regularly. This is the first time I've really seen it happen on a postcard. Additionally, the names on the postcards were very interesting. My name and my husband's name were on our postcard. One of my neighbors is a widow. The first name on the postcard was the person who owned the property previous to my friend and her husband. The second name was her late husband. Her name did not appear on the card, so it's got a really strange mailing list, and a lot of individuals got this card. Some people did not get this card, so it's sort of an interesting group that put this out. I'm in favor of campaign finance transparency, which is why I put this in initially. It has a modest threshold of $500, but I would like to see it investigated a bit more. Perhaps giving it another month or so. I was remiss in not notifying my town that I had submitted this complaint earlier. I had told a couple of people, including members of the select board, but it really wasn't public knowledge until Monday night when I went to the select board meeting and told them about the hearing this morning. So if I could have, if you could delay determining the end result of this complaint for a month or so, in the hopes that somebody local might say, I know who did this and I'll let you know. Because so far since Monday night, I've gotten about 8 notes from people saying, I'm happy that you did this, but so far nobody has told me who this person was. So I hopefully that's a way of saying that I'd like for you to continue this. And I'm going to tell you that the guys mowing my lawn are going to show up in about 2 seconds. So,
Awesome.
so yeah. Oops. Oh, I think my dog's gonna come back in also, but, yeah, no, this is something that I'm really concerned about, with, campaign finance transparency. It's something that I've been working on at the state legislature. And I would hope that this would be a bit more visible so that smaller communities know that they're not just, handicapped by anonymous mailers, that if somebody knows somebody, that they can report it and something can happen. Another thing I will say is that the people who were asking the town to donate the property have moved on from that project. So this is just it has upset, and now my dog doesn't like the fact that the boys are here to mow the lawn. That they're upset that erroneous language, inflammatory language, outright lies, speculation were broadcast with no opportunity for them to rebut it. I think the 3-day gap between the mailing and the town meeting were intentional, and I think it's inappropriate. And I'd like to find out who did it. Whether we can't find out who did it is, I'm not sure, but I would like to continue it for just a little bit longer and see if we can find out who might have done this.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that we used that statute, I think just a month or maybe 2 months ago, to impose a penalty for kind of a similar type of activity in Booth Bay.
You did find somebody in Booth Bay.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. Any questions for the representative?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I will move that we continue this for a month to see if anybody can kind of give us some direction that might help with an investigation.
I'll second the motion. just to
Okay.
get it out.
And
Okay.
now there's discussion.
I'm inclined to request an investigation. I think that it warrants it. I mean, this is a problem that could just get worse and get out of hand, and I'm just wondering if the commission staff could, I fully understand your First Amendment concerns, completely agree with them. You can't go asking people, do you know, because of what positions they have put in. But could not the commission issue some sort of a press release or request for assistance and say, this was sent out, we're investigating it. If anybody has any information, could you let us know? We might get something that way. I don't know if we'll get something any other way. But it puts it doing something like that affects the consideration seriousness of it, and also might be a way to get information. But it might also be something we throw out there to say this is not just going to get pushed to the side, and we're not just going to sit around waiting for people to come to us. We're going to actually be proactive and asking for information. And I think we could do it in a way that doesn't, chill First Amendment rights for whatever side people are on. If somebody wants to come forward. But I do think having the commission and start an investigation will be the way to do that.
Do you want to weigh in on the specific question about doing a press release?
First of all, we don't mind doing an investigation at all. So let's go down the question. Yeah, if you'll forgive me.
Yep.
We'll even call people who are, we can be a little bit more proactive. I don't mind being whatever your wishes are, we'll comply with and implement. We don't mind calling people who are informed about the issue and trying to ferret out information. I expressed my reservations about it, but I understand if you want to take a stand against this kind of thing, feel free to authorize us to investigate. And we certainly could try to get something local in whatever press there is.
I mean, I don't know what kind of print shops there are in that area. But this looks like, it comes out of a big sheet with cut cards, and so I don't know. There may be ways to look at where it came from.
Yeah. I don't want to make a half effort, you know, if you want us to. try-
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
If you want us to try to investigate this, we'll do it.
And that was my thought with putting it off for a month to see.
I don't see the point in putting it off. I mean, let's just let them do what they can do, and if they report back that they made an effort, then that's beyond their capacity, but at least, let's move it along.
And I'm also sensitive to the First Amendment rights of people to speak on a subject, and, you know, I would hate to see us kind of trampling on those somewhat by seeking out people who've spoken about it. I think that would be the wrong thing. And any other, yeah. Commissioner.
Just a couple thoughts. I fully agree with what you just said. I think I understand some of the difficulties in trying to do this. I think the tipping point for me in supporting that we start an investigation is we ask the public to do things, to respond, to file complaints, and she has. And then I think it's our turn to say, okay, we're gonna respond to that, rather than say, we need you to do some more work, and then we'll reconsider it. And that's kind of where I'm headed. So I would be in favor of an investigation.
Well, to be honest, the representative requested us to let it sit for a month, or that was her
She
specific.
wanted more time. She didn't want a disposition today. I heard that. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm on the fence. I mean, I agree with you that ultimately we probably should institute an investigation.
And time, I would just say that in anything, time always is your enemy. So I just don't see what benefit we get by passing it down the pike for a month. I don't.
I think it may give us a direction, and that's all. I think at the moment we have no direction to go, and I think.
I do think an investigation could provide some sort of direction. And if we're gonna do it, why not do it as soon as we can?
Well, as Mr. Wayne has indicated, he doesn't want to do a half-baked. He wants to do a real investigation if we instruct him to do an investigation, so I don't know.
I mean, this is
I'm
not
not opposed to
gonna be
it.
fresher in anybody's mind, a month from now.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect for my own purposes that I would like to do an investigation, but I'd like to start it with more information if we can.
I don't see how you're gonna get it.
Okay, the motion is that we put it off for a month. It's been seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I think I'm,
All opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay, the motion fails. Is there another motion?
I'll move that we request the staff to investigate this.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Okay. You are directed to do an investigation.
Thank you.
3 years.
I would request that you do it with sensitivity. So that, you know, we're not. Kind of. In any way, shape or form. Suppressing or trampling on anybody's First Amendment rights. I think you are capable of doing a sensitive investigation. And a complete investigation, so I trust you with that.
Great, thank you.
Representative Matlack, anything else?
No, I appreciate the commission's vote to conduct an investigation. I think that people in my community will be very grateful, and I hope that people in other communities, once they see something like this, will also step forward and say, this happened in my community and it's not right.
Yep.
So thank you very much for listening to me.
You bet, and thank you for participating.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks.
And thank you for loading your phone. That ended up working fine.
That's the preference.
Okay, item number 4 is, we're required by statute to do a report on proposals to amend the US Constitution with regard to regulation of campaign finances. And, Mr. Wayne.
this was discussed at your May 9th meeting, and I had a couple of practical questions at that time, particularly, should we hold a public hearing? Should we investigate multiple ways in which the congressional delegation have supported these proposals or not? And I got clear answers on those questions. After I was able to get some other projects out of the way, in June, I wrote a draft report, which I sent to each of you on June 28th. And I followed up by phone 2 or 3 weeks ago. And my intent was not to hold up, we didn't have a meeting at the end of June. Anyway, my intent was to get your feedback, try to get closer to something that was acceptable, but not to have any kind of a meeting about this, and time constraints were a factor. So the feedback I got from Commissioner Schneider was that when the commission gave direction to the staff on May 9th, that was that this report should contain 2 things. It should include the proposals, and it should contain some sort of list or indication of which members of the delegation supported those proposals. And then I also got feedback by phone from Commissioner Marble and Commissioner Leclerc that the report should give greater recognition to the comments that we got from the public in writing. So, seeing that there were different points of view on this, I included in the materials 2 drafts of the report. One draft is much more stripped down. It reflects the viewpoint of Commissioner Schneider. The other one is very similar to what I sent out on June 28th, except it has a beefed up conclusion, sort of an alternative conclusion. This is one that's labeled version 2 that contains some more of the thoughts that I hope were consistent with what Commissioner Leclerc and Commissioner Marble said. So I just wanted to say that I didn't intend to disregard any part of your discussion on May 9th. This is particularly directed to the chair. That wasn't my intention. And I don't have anything particularly invested in what was distributed on June 28th. So I'm happy to do whatever is necessary to do whatever kind of report you want. The deadline in the law is coming up in 7 days, I believe. Yeah.
End of July is the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our time period. And I'm happy to work with any of you offline in an individual capacity to try to get this in final form. Thank you.
Are there questions of Mr. Wayne? Okay, and so we'll open discussion. Well, I'll move that my version is the version that we adopt. Is there a second?
That's version 1.
Version 1, yes. And my reason for doing that is that I think we voted at a prior meeting to strictly follow the requirements of the statute and not put any editorial additions into our report. We're required under the report to issue or we're required under the statute to issue a report that includes the proposals and which members of the delegation, the Maine delegation, supported or opposed them. And my version of the report does exactly that and no more. I think if we go even an inch beyond that, I think we risk being seen as a partisan player, and I think that's really, really dangerous for us to do. I think we need to maintain our strict, nonpartisan, non-political status. And we've jealously guarded that over the years. And I think if we expand upon what we were required to do in the statute, I think we risk that. And that was my thinking. So
I guess I'd like, I was happy enough with the first report, but your argument is kind of persuasive to me. I'd like to hear what others think. Is there a reason why we should? It was a very well-written report.
It was. I completely agree.
Everybody agrees on that.
I'm not throwing any shade at all on Jonathan or the commission staff. I just think for our purposes and in order to meet the requirements of the statute, we should stay strictly within the bounds of what's been asked.
I guess I'm kind of, now that you say that, I kind of see what you're saying. You know, others, I'm kind of,
David, I'll reply. You know how I never speak, but I'll try to talk this time. And I won't pretend that what I'm about to try to say is perfectly well thought out or clear. So let me stumble through this. I respect the chair's position, but I think it's a little bit too strict of an interpretation of our task. I don't think saying something measured or appropriate in addition to the report and the report on the congressional activity makes it invalid or puts us at any risk. The foundation I'm considering is the voter turnout and results of the referendum itself. And if I remember right, which may not be true, it was something like 80+% in favor of eliminating foreign money from Maine elections. If I recall that, if someone can improve on that or clarify that, I'm open to that. But I think thought it was 80-20. The comments we received, there were 35 to 45, somewhere in that range. I believe only 2 didn't support that thrust, and they were both from organizations. I think every individual who replied in terms of the content wants work done investigating the effect of money on elections. And I think underneath it all, and I'll just say this editorially, the various courts' decisions, including the Supreme Court, to my mind, lay out a false equivalency of saying that the rights and limits of someone like Chair Schneider are only equal to, not exceeded by, a Ben & Jerry's or a Microsoft. And I'm personally more than a little concerned about that. The other deep concern I have is that the general electorate seemingly increasingly is getting more and more cynical about elections. You see it in letters to the editor, you hear it in comments over coffee. The amount of money coming into the state from out of state for elections is nothing like I've seen before in my life. So that said, I simply thought that with the position of this commission, with there not being another entity in the state like us that I'm aware of, we could take advantage to simply highlight and say, this seems to be the general, and I'm not saying this well, feeling and or on reflect, I can't even say it well, these paragraphs are better. But I think we should not skip an opportunity, and I don't see it as a partisan issue, by the way, Bill, I do not. I think both liberal and conservative businesses have thrown way too much money away.
Oh, I don't think it's like a Republican Democrat. I don't even know where I stand on these questions.
Okay.
I really strongly object to us seeming to take a position, and a lot of what you just said is taking a position. And I can't do that.
I'll stop there. Thank you.
So the alternative conclusion says the following. The comments from the public confirm that some Mainers are uneasy about the increasing amount of money in state elections and worry that they do not have the same access to political process as wealthy individuals and groups that fund state election campaigns. The referendum absolutely confirms that we're in existence because of the concern over money, the commission itself. That is not a partisan statement. It is a statement of fact.
Read the next sentence.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm not open to some sort of compromise on this.
Okay.
We're two here, so
Yeah,
I think we might be going that way.
Yes.
The commission understands why these issues have come forward and encourages Maine elected officials to actively investigate whether these concerns can be addressed without weakening cherished First Amendment freedoms. I don't see that as partisan. It's, I think, entirely appropriate. But I absolutely think that the comments we've received, the referendum, as I recall, received the largest majority of any referendum ever in the history of the state of Maine. We're the agency charged with responsibility in this arena. And our existence is based upon public concern for the influence of money. So to not say that, to just put out, you know, here's the comments and stuff. I don't think it's partisan. I don't think it's inappropriate. And I would definitely vote for the alternative that was proposed by Mr. Wayne. I mean, I think we should have to be more than just a conduit. And I understand that not wanting to be partisan, but this isn't partisan. This is requesting consideration, and it's acknowledging the people of the state of Maine have massive concerns. I mean, I'm not going to mention any names in this, but we've had a earthquake-sized political event. And what I'm hearing most on the news is the amount of money.
Right.
It's money, money, money. And the comments from the public confirm some Mainers are easy about the increasing amount of money in Maine politics. Yes, they are. And I think that that's a very fair statement that is nonpartisan, and I would like to see the second alternative attached to our report.
Commissioner Hastings.
I'm starting to agree. I don't mind version 2, but I think I would go with the very neutral conclusion of the June 28th draft. I think the alternate conclusion is, although perhaps a majority, is a partisan, but it tends towards being a partisan. An adoption of a partisan view by the commission. And I don't think it's necessary. I think if this draft is going to include all the comments and everything, it's all there. The public comment, that what this is doing is getting the information out, but I'm not sure it's up to us to draw any sort of definitive conclusion or suggest one. I'm happy with, I think the information gets out there with the first conclusion without need for any more editorial comment by the commission. And so I could support version 2 with that first conclusion.
Well, my motion has failed for lack of second, so do you want to make another motion?
Well, I'll move that we approve version 2 with the first alternate conclusion taken from the June 28th draft.
I'll second that.
I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
I'm proposing that we approve
Okay.
version 2 with the first conclusion.
Commissioner Martin.
I feel a little bit like Commissioner Hastings' comment in the previous matter about this fence strategy. I don't want any of you to think I'm crystal clear either on our role or exactly what we should do. But I have a question and then a comment. And my question to you and David is, help me understand your use of the word partisan. David, I need help with that.
Well, with all respect, I thought your comments were essentially an adoption of your belief that there is too much foreign money in politics, and that it should be limited or controlled. It was an adoption of one side or other of the referendum. even though it was adopted by a vast majority, there was another side to it. Well, 20-some% that voted against it. So you would ask the commission to essentially insert the majority view in as part of our conclusion, which that's what I consider to be partisan.
Can I reply?
Not that it's right or wrong,
Yeah.
just that's. We don't need to do that. And I agree with Commissioner Snyder on that. The public can draw its own conclusions. This puts out tons of information.
Yeah, please do.
Hal, thank you. That clarifies it. It's not how I've ever thought of partisan. That's me, not you. What I was trying to do was to be fully transparent in my thoughts and share that with you. I was not trying to impose my language on this, and if that gets blurry, I can't take it back. But I don't think the language in the alternative conclusion that Commissioner Leclerc has read a couple of times echoes what I said. I think this is a much more respectful and neutral use of the English language than the words I chose. So again, I was trying to be open with you. Yes, those are my views. I don't take them back. But I'm not convinced that supporting that language taints the words in the conclusion that way.
And I think we just differ there.
Yeah, we may.
Is there room for any sort of a compromise?
I think Commissioner Hastings' proposal is a big compromise. I still think anything we say beyond what's required is vulnerable to being seen as supporting one side or the other. And that's why I have supported a stripped down version that just answers the mail as far as the statute is concerned. I mean, I think Jonathan's analysis and his legal analysis was terrific. But I think even providing that is more than we're required to do. And I think we're safest and we're most nonpartisan, we're most we're most objective. Just replying to the requirements of the statute.
I will ask that the first line of conclusion alternative, the comments from the public change the word confirm in case that some Mainers are uneasy about the increasing amount of money in state elections. Period, and then throw that at the top of the June 28th.
Well, you want to make that as motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
So now we can discuss that. Why do you want to do that? The comments speak for themselves. If anybody chooses to read the comments, they will know that.
I think it's our job to inform the public. And that's the
And
fact.
we're
The
providing,
comments are overwhelmingly.
yeah, we're providing the comments as part of the report.
I think it's the commission's job to inform the public, and I don't think that putting a line like that that's factually accurate. The comments from the public indicate that some Mainers are uneasy about the increasing amount of money in Maine state elections. The commission appreciates the thoughtful and deeply held viewpoints expressed in the public's comments to the commission with the rest of it. I think that's a compromise I can live with.
Commissioner, I can live with that. It just says some Maine is a concern. I can live with that. I don't mind. So you just say, so you start that.
I would take the first line.
You want to put that first line through Maine state elections at the beginning of the. original
Yes,
conclusion.
period, and then the commission appreciates the thoughtful, deeply held.
And you wanted to change confirm to indicate?
If that would make you feel better.
Doesn't make me feel any better. I'm voting against it either way, so
Okay, indicate, well, I don't care which word you use.
Okay,
what's your preference?
I would confirm if it doesn't matter to you. Yeah.
Oh, because it just says some, it could be 5 Mainers.
Yep.
It doesn't attempt to say the majority or the people on the right side or anything like that.
And you would put the
abbreviated-
period after
Sorry.
elections?
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Okay, and move that to the
To the
beginning
front.
of the June 28th draft. And it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
I can support it.
Okay, so let's have a vote. All in favor of amending version 2. Well, we have a motion to do version 2 with the June 28th draft conclusion. And then we have a motion to amend.
This is an amendment. We have to vote on the amendment.
Exactly right, exactly right. So that's what I'm about to do. All in favor of amending the version 2 to move that first phrase from the alternative conclusion to the beginning of the June 28th conclusion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. So that passes. So the underlying motion now is to adopt version 2 as amended. And that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of adopting version 2 as moved and amended? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. So it passes 3-1. So Jonathan, your hard work is gonna be presented to the public.
Thank you.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the commission?
There's no other business. I just wanted to comment. I'm sorry if the timing and the way it's unfolded exacerbated any differences of opinion among the commission, and, you know, that wasn't my intention. And thank you.
It didn't exacerbate any.
I think healthy disagreements
Yes,
make this part of this process, right? Right, makes it better.
Exactly. All right, so is there a motion?
Our next meeting is the 28th, just to confirm.
Let's see.
Yes.
Yes. This says yes. Then I move to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.